So verses 13 to 19, here Krishna is going to explain the Gaya, the object of knowledge. So far he has explained Kshetra, which is the body, Kshetragya, which is the soul and the super soul. And between verses 8 and 12, he explained the process of knowledge by which one can actually realize the super soul. Now he is going to describe what is that super soul, like some explanation about the object of knowledge, Gaya. And Prabhupada, if you read the 13th verse, purport, it is very clear. Prabhupada says Gaya includes both the soul and the super soul, because unless we know ourselves, we won't be able to understand the super soul. So first verse, 13th verse, speaks about the soul, and the rest speaks about the super soul. So let's get into the section. Before like even seeing the section, we want to see why is Krishna speaking these verses? Why is he speaking about Gaya, the soul and the super soul and all of that? So basically, the first logical thought is continuing the structure of the chapter. Arjuna asked questions. He asked Kshetra, Kshetragya, Jnana, Gaya, all these things he had asked about. So Prakriti and Purusha, of course. So Krishna had already answered Kshetra, Kshetragya. So he had spoken about the process of knowledge. So naturally, the following topic is Gaya, the what are you going to understand through that process of knowledge? What is the knowable through that process? And since he has explained already the field and the process of knowledge between the verses 1 and 12, now he is completing that line of thought by explaining Gaya, the supreme object of knowledge. And why this sequence? Because he could have gone through any sequence. Why first Jnana and then Gaya? Because before discussing what to know, Krishna wants to explain how to know. So the qualities like humility, tolerance, detachment that we discussed between verses 8 and 12 are not just random virtues for some improving the quality of life. No, they're actually essential epistemological tools to understand spiritual knowledge. So without them, the Paramatma cannot be realized. That is why those knowledge, those aspects are discussed first. And now he's going to discuss what to know through those processes. And what is Gaya? Of course, the super soul or Paramatma is the ultimate object of spiritual knowledge, especially in the path of Jnana. Eternal, all-pervading, the Paramatma or the Supreme is indivisible, the source of all light, the true goal of knowledge. So this is just one of the verses translations. So this is Gaya. And Prabhupada also says, not just the super soul, the soul is also part of the Gaya. And why is this particular topic very important? Because knowing matter, that is the field, and soul, the knower, is incomplete without knowing the controller and witness of both. So it is the Paramatma who is the controller of all fields and the knower of all souls. So these verses give us a glimpse of who is the super soul, who's existing in our own heart, and what is the qualities of that super soul. So that is the primary knowledge which will be covered in this particular verses between verse 13 and 19. Any questions on this explanation? Good? Okay. And also the main reason why all these things about the super soul is being explained is that because spiritual knowledge is not just like an information, we need to connect, especially the Gyan Yogi. If that yogi wants to connect to the super soul, they need to know who the super soul is. So these verses show us like who we are meant to connect with, because even we think our japa is I am chanting. However, in japa, there are two people involved. One is the chanter and the object of that process, who's the Supreme Lord Krishna. So in our chanting, we are not alone. So we are chanting and we are hearing what we are chanting, and also Krishna is hearing what we are chanting. So the more we actually understand that this process of chanting is a conversation, it's not a monologue. It's not me alone sitting and yelling, but rather there is another person opposite sitting and hearing. So that is why attention is considered as an important aspect of chanting. So here, similarly, Krishna is speaking about this knowledge to show us who we are meant to connect with through this process of knowledge. And if you have a Bhagavad Gita, soft or a hard copy for your reference, please have. I have not posted all the translations here for lack of discipline. So please. I will also open my Bhagavad Gita just a minute. So verse 13. is gyayam ettat pravakshami et gyatva amritam ashnute anadimat param brahma nasattan nasaduchyate. That Krishna is saying, I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So different acharyas can explain the second part of the verse differently, but Prabhupada takes it to refer to the individual soul. And Prabhupada's logic is Mat Param Brahma. That means that is subordinate to me. So the soul is subordinate to the super soul. That's why Prabhupada takes the word Brahma as spirit, the individual soul. And also the individual soul is beyond the cause and effect of this material world. It's eternal, it's spiritual. And if you refer to another, what you call, different commentary, they may even take it as the super soul. So there is nothing contradictory there. It just, there are multiple ways to interpret it within the philosophical framework. So here, because it is anadi, soul is also anadi, super soul is also anadi. Nasattan nasaduchyate. If you see another acharya who's taking Matparam Brahma as super soul, what they mean is that the super soul is subordinate to the Bhagavan aspect. So from that logic, they may say this verse is referring to the super soul. So both are possible. And if you read the purport, Prabhupada gives this whole paragraph, the second paragraph, as a proof why he is taking the Brahma as the individual soul. So then he quotes Shvetashvatra Upanishad, Pradhana Kshetragya Patir Gunesha, and he also quotes Smriti, Das Bhuto Harereva Na Anyasyaiva Kadachana. He's saying the soul is the servant whose master, it is the super soul. Pradhana Kshetragya Patir Gunesha. He is the owner of the controller, master of the three modes, and he is the chief knower of the body. Pradhana Kshetragya Patir. So that is the reason Prabhupada is using this particular verse to refer to the soul. That knowable and eternal that's being spoken about is referring to the soul. That I shall now explain to the knowable. What is that knowable? The soul. Knowing which you will taste eternal, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material. Basically self-realization, if you understand. And the next verse, now that we have spoken about the soul, Krishna then moves his explanation towards the super soul. And everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces. And he has ears everywhere. In this way, the super soul exists, pervading everything. So here in the purport, Prabhupada says, in the last line, if you see of the purport chapter, verse 14, Prabhupada says, therefore, this verse describes the supreme soul, the personality of Godhead, not the individual soul. And the reason is, Prabhupada explains in the purport that there are unlimited heads, legs, hands, and eyes, and unlimited living entities. All are existing in and on the super soul. Therefore, the super soul is all pervading. The individual soul, however, cannot say that he has his hands, legs, and eyes everywhere. That's not possible. So he is basically explaining that how this is suitable to the super soul, not the individual soul. And this verse is also very famous. This comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains the meaning to Advaita Acharya. So this is about the super soul, the verse 14. Okay. 15 to 19. The next verse is paradoxes of the super soul. Like the qualities of the super soul are very inconceivable. That's what is being discussed in the 15th verse. How the super soul's qualities are very contradictory. The super soul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature. So three set of contradicting qualities are given in this particular verse. One is he is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. So the idea is everything comes from the Supreme Lord, even the three modes. And in that sense, he is the original source of all the material senses we possess. However, he does not have material senses like us. It's not covered by matter. And Prabhupada explains that the Supreme Lord's senses are not so covered. His senses are transcendental and are therefore called nirguna. Guna means material modes, but his senses are without material covering. So in that sense, he has this contradictory quality. He is the origin of all senses, but he is without the same material senses. And the second set of contradicting qualities, asaktam sarva brichaiva. Asaktam means he is without attachment. He is not attached to anything. Sarva brichaiva, but he is the maintainer of everyone. It's a very difficult thing to do. When we take care of someone, we also become attached to them. We want to love them and also sometimes control them. So it's very hard to maintain, to take care of someone and not be attached to them. And Krishna is not attached to anyone. At the same time, he is taking care of everyone. Sarva Britchaiva. He is a maintainer of everyone. And the third set of contradicting qualities is Nirgunam Guna Bhoktracha. Nirgunam means basically he is without material qualities. Guna Bhoktra is master of the gunas, that he is the owner of the gunas. He does not have it, but he is the owner of it. So he has it. So when you say, I'm the owner of it, so that you possess it, but he really does not possess it personally on a spiritual sense. And Prabhupada speaks that how the Lord appears by his internal potency. Though he is the master of the material energy, he is not touched by the material energy. Guna Bhoktacha. And his body is Sachidananda Vigraha. So in this way, as far as we can understand from Vedic literature, Prabhupada writes, the Supreme Lord is always transcendental. Although we do not see his head, face, hands, or legs, he has them. And when we are elevated to the transcendental situation, we can see the Lord's form. So what is being explained here as inconceivable is not that we will never be able to understand those things. In the current conditioned state, we may not be able to understand these things. However, when our spiritual consciousness is evolved, we'll be able to understand these things. So it is inconceivable, but it can become to some degree conceivable as our spiritual consciousness evolves. So that's why Prabhupada is saying, yeah, means the Lord has everything. When we are elevated to the transcendental situation, we can see the Lord's form. It's not that we'll never be able to see the Lord's form. We will be able to see. We'll be able to understand a little bit more than what we now currently understand about Krishna. But we may never be able to understand him completely. So currently, due to material contaminated senses, we cannot see his form. Therefore, the impersonalists who are still materially affected cannot understand the personality of God. So people may use these verses and say, oh, that's why the Supreme Lord does not have a form. He is nirguna. He does not have any senses. Sarvendra gunabhasam, sarvendra vivarjitam. People may use this verse to say, oh, the Supreme Lord has no senses, has no form. So that is why it is important to understand this particular verse, because otherwise using these paradoxes in the scripture, we can slip and fall. If you step on a banana peel, you fall. So similarly, many times people can stuck in these verses, which are all like having paradoxes about the Supreme Lord. If they use their exclusively their own current level of intelligence, it may be very bewildering. Any question? Anyone wants to read the translation to the next verse, which is 16? Yes. Yes, Purva, please go ahead. You can unmute and read.
Yes. Verse 16.
16.
Okay. The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the unmoving, non-moving. Because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far away, he is also near to all.
He is also near to all. So this is what we discussed. Sometimes we have this experience that he's too far, nowhere to be experienced. And we have also experienced that he's too near to us when we are tuned in. So when we say the true supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, what does that mean?
Does it mean inside he is within the heart and outside he is within everyone else's, all living entities' heart, the creator of everything?
Yeah, he's residing far away in the form of the Bhagwan. At one level, we can say that he is also existing as the Supreme Lord far away from us in the spiritual world, but he is also very close to us as Paramatma in our hearts. That is one way. Another way is to understand that these are recognizing the glory of the Supreme Lord. As you said, the Super Soul is present within us and within every other atom also. So it just shows that how extraordinary he is. He is residing inside and outside. Everywhere is all pervading. Two ways to understand that. And the other one is because he is subtle, he is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Sukshmatvat tadavidyayam. Many times especially scientists may say, oh, we have done a heart transplant, we could not see the soul or the super soul there, because he is sukshmatvatad avigyayam durastam chanti kechatat. Although far away, he is also near to all. He's very subtle, or not very easy to experience through material senses or through material equipments. Yes, Purva.
Prabhuji, during times when we can't really perceive that Krishna is near to us and we end up thinking that he's really far away, and we feel so worthless that we're not even in the mood to chant or to listen to his holy, what should we do?
When you are actually having good experiences, note them down. And when you're in the good mood, when you feel like motivated in spiritual life, develop the habits of praying, choosing certain pastimes which can act like anchors. Increase your anchors in spiritual life. When you're in the good streak, develop spiritual habits of, develop a routine, develop a ritual in the sense of the word ritual has such bad connotation these days. However, the power of ritual is that it can actually help you experience steadiness and also gradually produce spiritual happiness also when it is done sincerely. When you're in the good streak, develop routines. So say, for example, every day when I wake up, I say this. So when you don't, at least you get reminded, oh, I'm supposed to say that. You may not feel like saying that on a particular day when you're not in a mood. You have an anchor to come back. When something happens in life and again you feel inspired, you can immediately fall back into that routine and you'll be uplifted very quickly. So if we don't have any routine, spiritually speaking, then there will be nothing to come back to. And when we come back also, it will be too slow when you don't have. And when in good streaks, also developing the habits of praying, because we always lead a spiritual life as if we are the only ones practicing it. Like we tend to practice it in impersonal mode or alone. We don't think Krishna is present in my spiritual life. The goal of my spiritual life is Krishna. We many times forget that, even while strictly practicing the routine. There is an impersonal tendency that we may just lose sight that why am I doing, for whom I am doing, what is the purpose, connection of this. So without a connection, I may just start doing, I'm chanting, I'm doing everything, but I don't connect it to Krishna. I don't go dedicated to Krishna. I don't have like conversations with Krishna. So there is no prayer, there is no dedication of that practice. Before a practice, we don't say, oh, Krishna, this really is for your pleasure. Chanting, say, if I'm giving a class, I can chant, sorry, not Premadhani, the invocation, Mangalacharana. But to actually, from my heart to chant is a very different feeling. Sometimes it's part of the ritual before a class, you say Mangalacharana, but also completely embodying that mood and connecting with that. So then you can feel that presence immediately. As Mataji was saying, Shri Rupa was saying, Satchidanand Maharaj said, I hear your voices, but I don't hear your heart. So when in good streak, we have to work hard. So then naturally, because of our mind, we may sometimes feel a little like down, that the frequency and the intensity and the length of those periods will gradually shrink. So don't worry about those periods. Work hard on during the good periods. And the easiest way is association. Whatever is your spiritual anchor, go to it. And it's good to have friends. Gradually, you have to develop that also. A safety net in bhakti is to have good friends.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yes, I got an idea. Thank you.
So with verses 17, that we see how the Supreme Lord is now, because we are saying Antar Bahishcha Bhutanam in the 16th verse, that he is inside and outside. So is he like divided into different pieces? Because there are gurus who may say in a lecture, they may pick up a paper and they may just stare it and they may just throw it and see. So similarly, the Brahman was one and now it is divided into so many that we are all in this room. We're all like pieces of that Brahman, something like that. So they can create weird philosophies from these kind of interpretations. So somebody may say Bahirantascha Bhutanam, that the Lord is internal, inside and outside. That means he got divided. That is why in the next verse is Avibhaktam cha Bhuteshu. No, Avibhaktam, like he is without division, even though he seemed to be Vibhaktam iva cha sthitam, even though he seems to be divided internally and externally in so many atoms, still he is Avibhaktam, he is not divided. Although the super soul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Vibhaktam cha iva cha sthitam. Bhuta bhartar cha tadgyayam. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all. He is a maintainer, but he is also the Grashishnu. He is the one in the form of time, destroys the bodies also, Prabha Vishnu, and creates newer things also. So these are contradictory qualities. He is divided but undivided. He is a maintainer, but he is also the destroyer. So Prabhupada literally takes up that in the purport. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart as a super soul. Does this mean that he has become divided? No. Actually, he is one. And Prabhupada gives this example of the sun. And the sun, it is situated in a far place. If one goes for 5,000 miles in all direction, asks where is the sun, everyone will say that it is shining on his head. So in the Vedic literature, this example is given to show that although the super soul is undivided, he is situated as if divided. Also, it is said in the Vedic literature that one Vishnu is present everywhere by his omnipotence, just as the sun appears in many places to many persons. So using the sun, they explain if a material object can have that level of a potency, what to speak of the Supreme Lord. And the same, the Supreme Lord is, although the maintainer of every living entity, he devours everything of annihilation. So in this way, the contradictory qualities of the super soul are given, because this is the difference between the mood of a Jnana Yogi and a Bhakti Yogi. The Bhakti Yogi understands the sweetness of the Supreme Lord usually. They focus on the sweetness, the personal nature of the Supreme Lord in his Bhagwan form as Lord Rama or Lord Krishna, as Lord Narsimhadev. So we focus on their qualities, their sweetness, their love for the devotees. So that is the focus of it. It's not that they don't know the philosophy. If you read any of the prayers in the Bhagavatam by great devotees, they all speak philosophy, but there is also a sweetness and there is a relationship and connection. It's more personal. But a Jnana Yogi is more interested in this all-pervading aspect of the Supreme Lord. So that is why here all the paradoxical qualities of the super soul is being described. And for someone who is intelligent, who is really into philosophy, these are mind-blowing and exhilarating and exciting details to note about the nature of the Supreme. It actually makes them come alive. It really inspires them. So they would like to see the complicated philosophical side of the absolute nature. So if you feel little, oh my God, what is going on? So then Bhakti Yoga is the best process. No, just kidding. So we all know the philosophy. Prabhupada is writing all these purports and he's explaining all of this to us. But the idea is to ultimately appreciate the personal presence of the Supreme Lord. But here we are exploring the topic of the super soul. And that's what the nature of the super soul is inconceivable. It's amazing to think how can the Supreme Lord be situated in each and every living being's heart and also in each and every atom. Like, it's mind-blowing to think that. And that is why these verses are all speaking about that he's the original source and of all senses, but he has no material senses. He is maintaining everything and he is unattached. He's the master of the senses, but he possesses no material gunas. He's the master of the three modes, but he does not possess any of or affected by the three gunas. Okay, Parnika is asking, does the sun count as a material object? Lord says he is sunlight. So what Krishna says that I am the shark among the aquatics, I am the mountain, Himalayas, a mountain, immovable, all these things. It's not that they are the Lord. They actually exhibit the potency of the Lord. So the sun is still a material object. It will be gone from the existence when the time of the annihilation of the universe comes. However, the potency, what it exhibits is, as we are saying, that it can go unlimitedly through all over the universe. So that potency is being reflected. So he says, Ravi means among all the luminous objects, I am the sun, because within the material world, it is the source of all light. So in that sense, he is not saying literally he is the sun. The sun exhibits his potency of being that supreme object within the universe of light. So when we say, does it make sense, Parnika?
Yes. So it's not that he's trying to say that he is actually those things. He's trying to exhibit his by
Qualities.
saying those things.
Yes, that's why the chapter name is also called as Vibhuti Yoga. What do you call Vibhuti? Means opulences of the absolute, or a display of his potency in various forms. Hope it makes sense. And for what do you call the verses 17, so we saw all the paradoxical qualities 14, 15, 16 and 17, and we are here in the 18. Just Jyotisham api tad jyotis tamasaha paramuchyate jnanam gyeyam jnanagamyam hridi sarvasya vishtitam. Translation of verse 18 is: he is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Because we are speaking about the topic of knowledge, so Krishna is saying that super soul is he is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge, and he is situated in everyone's heart. It's very clear who is situated in everyone's heart is the super soul, and he's the source of light in all luminous objects. He's beyond darkness of matter and is unmanifested. So when we say jnanam gyayam jnanagamyam, gyayam is object of knowledge, jnanagamyam is goal of knowledge. What is the difference between object of knowledge and goal of knowledge? Any thoughts? What is the difference between object of knowledge and goal of knowledge?
Object of knowledge would be like Krishna, and then the goal would be self-realization, or like realizing our connection with Krishna. Right?
Yeah, very close. Yes, the object of knowledge is Krishna, and the goal of knowledge, Purva?
The goal of knowledge could be the devotional service to Krishna.
Yes, very close. I'm especially looking for one particular word, but you both are close. It's not that what you're saying is wrong. You are right. I'm basically looking for the word love. So the goal of knowledge is to fall in love with the Supreme Lord. So object of knowledge, yes, it is Krishna. And the goal of knowledge is to love Krishna, develop love of Krishna. And here also the same with the Paramatma, he is the object of knowledge, but the goal of knowledge is to actually to connect with him. And he is also knowledge, he is situated in everyone's heart. So that is why here the super soul is being explained. So Prabhupada also speaks about that goal of knowledge. One must surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead if he at all wants liberation, because the object of knowledge is liberation and the goal of knowledge is surrender. And in the 19th verse, it's very interesting to observe that who can really know this? He says, Iti kshetram tata jnanam gyayam choktam samasatah mad bhakta etad vigyaya mad bhava upapadyate. That thus the material activities, thus the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable. Iti kshetram, that is the field of activities, body, jnanam, knowledge, gyayam, which is the knowable. So thus the field of activities, the body, the knowledge, and the knowable, of course, he has also explained kshetragya, have been summarily described by me. So he's summarizing the first 18 verses, whatever he spoke. He says, I have described all these topics summarily to you. Who can understand this? Mad bhakta etad vigyaya mad bhava upapadyate. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. Why in Jnana Yoga again bhakti is being brought up? Because in the verse between 8 and 12, one of the verses also we saw, Maicha ananya yogena, bhakti ravyabhacharini. We saw in the process of knowledge, bhakti was also included. There also I explain how even if it is Jnana Yoga, there needs to be a little element of bhakti. For bhakti yogis, it is the goal and the means. But for a Jnana Yogi, it is just a means. It's not the goal. So here, only my devotees can understand this. So this Jnana Yogi also needs to at least have little devotion in order to understand all these things. Hare Krishna, Mataji?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Like goal is the last thing, right? Last thing. So it should be goal should be Krishna, and then the objectives you want what you want to do for that goal, right? So it should be like surrendering. Everything comes into objective, right?
Game is who are we trying to understand is Krishna. But we are not just trying to understand, but we are trying to love him. So it's a detail, I would say. It is just a detail, how you look at it. But still, here, Gayam is very clear. Gayam is the Supreme Lord. Gayam is the super soul.
Whom you need to know.
Whom you need to know. Because the process of knowledge is who are you trying to understand. But why are you trying to understand is the goal. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Goal should be like a last thing, right? What you want to achieve, right?
Yeah, what you want to achieve is love of Krishna.
Not Krishna himself. Love of Krishna or Krishna himself?
They're non-different. But how can you possess? Krishna is not an object that you can possess, right? You can love Krishna, and because of that love, he can belong to you. But there is otherwise, how will Krishna belong to you?
When you think he's yours.
Yeah, that is love, right?
Okay, Prabhuji, yeah.
So it begins with the understanding of who Krishna is, all his Aishwarya Jnana. But just knowing him is not enough in order to actually, the goal is to actually come to that level of really belonging to Krishna, or Krishna, and developing love for Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So with this verse 19, so when Krishna is saying Mad Bhakta Yopapadyate, Mad Bhakta Etad Vigyaya Mad Bhava Upapadyate, means why my Bhakta can understand this and others cannot understand this, which means like even if one is practicing Jnana, one has to include sadhana in it, some bhakti sadhana in it. And if one focuses on cultivating bhakti itself, like if someone is just exclusively focused on bhakti, obviously this Jnana will automatically come. However, even if somebody is practicing Jnana Yoga, they need to have a little element of bhakti in there, because if they are atheistic or if they think they are God, it's not going to work. That is my Adi philosophy. If someone considers themselves as God, then they cannot even practice Jnana Yoga, because how will you then understand the difference between the soul and the super soul? If they think they are God, then there is no proper understanding of who is Kshetragya, that there are two types of Kshetragya. That difference they will not be able to accept. So there needs a little devotion. Devotion means submissiveness. Otherwise, there is ego. Oh, I am God. So that's the Prabhupada calls it. That's the last snare of Maya. That's the biggest ego one can have, to consider oneself as God. And that is why here Krishna is specifically saying, even though it is a Jnana section, he's saying Mad Bhakta Etad Vigyaya Mad Bhava Upapadyate. Only my devotee can understand this. So even at least a little submissiveness, that I am a small spirit soul and the super soul is great. That is also can be considered as devotion, because there is a submissiveness there, acceptance of the greatness of the God. So at least a lesha, that is a little bit of bhakti needs to be there. Can you all hear me?
Prabhu.
Okay. Sorry. A WhatsApp call came on the phone and messed up my screen. I'm not able to see any of you.
Prabhu, your end is unchanged. Like you are,
Okay.
we can see you.
Now I'm able to see you guys. So these are the 6 or 7 verses speaking about the super soul, or the goal of all knowledge, which is Gayam. And let me just, what am I doing? Any doubts on this before we go into lessons or other thoughts on this section? So the Supreme Lord is being, yes, Sundaranand Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhu, could we say that the object and goal that you just explained so well, is that comparable to that three-step process that we have, abhidheya, prayojana, and pratyaksha?
Sambandha.
Sambandha, abhidheya.
I have to tell this devotee that I'm in a class. Just a minute. I have to just text them. They continue persisting to call me. So just a minute. Okay. Sundaran Prabhu, if I understand rightly, you're asking Sambandha, Abhidheya, and Prayojana, how does it relate to the topic that we discussed, the object of knowledge and goal of knowledge?
Yes.
Yeah. So object of knowledge more would be like Sambandha. Like the Sambandha again is trying to understand who is Krishna, who is me, and what is my connection with him. It's just the object of knowledge, Sambandha. And Prayojana is the goal of knowledge. So what is the, means I get this sambandha, but what do? I do service, and through that service, through that sadhana, I realize, reawaken my love for Krishna, which is the prayojana, the goal. It's relatable, different ways of looking at the same thing, but different classifications, but can be correlated. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. And the topics on this particular section between verses 13 and 19 specifically denote that spiritual knowledge culminates in knowing the Supreme Person. So Jnana Yoga is not like a dry thing where we just focused on the soul, No, we also are involved in knowing the super soul or the supreme person. And we also saw the lesson is God is both near and far. He's far in the sense physically he is transcendental and situated in the spiritual world. Still, he's also very close to us, sitting in our own hearts. And when we actually awaken devotion, then Krishna is personally sitting within our hearts and reciprocating inside and outside. So he's both near and far. And usually, if we are not able to experience the presence of the Supreme Lord, that's usually due to our ego. So divinity is not outside our reach, it's just outside our ego. If we are wrapped up in our own ego, in our mind and intelligence, and within our own limited sensory experiences, then divinity is not within that reach. It's like closing myself down inside a dark room and saying there is no sun inside this room. So sun is not inside that dark room. So similarly, the Supreme Lord is not within our ego, cannot be realized when we are caught up within our ego. We need to step out. And in there we can surely access the Supreme Lord when we step out of our false ego. And this is also another thing, like we all study Gita. So what is our goal? Do we want to know more, or do we want to connect with Krishna through our study? So that is also a lesson, a reflection we can have from this section. So a lot of, initially, especially in dealing with scriptures, the usual attitude is, I want to understand everything. I want to know more. I want to memorize verses. I should be able to remember verses, quote them, and remember all the points and be able to recollect and present it and organize it. Beyond all of that, all this knowledge is also to help us connect to Krishna. So can we, in our free time, can we just remember a point and relish, oh, how Krishna is wonderful, how amazing Krishna is, and how just wondering about Krishna and thinking about Krishna, can this knowledge lead to remembrance of Krishna, contemplation of Krishna? And through that contemplation and remembrance, can we connect with Krishna? So that's the goal of this knowledge. So to object of knowledge, maybe I can just focus on Gita as individual verses. What is the connection, how it's flowing, and what is the meaning, why Krishna is saying this? All of this is fine. But can all this help me to connect with Krishna as a person and develop appreciation for him, increase my remembrance of him and appreciation of him? So how often do I perceive a deeper orchestration behind events? Because we think everything is random. Sometimes we do know, but immediately we feel, why is this happening? What is the reason? But Krishna is orchestrating all of these things for us to learn things. So that Krishna's hands is all over my life. My life is not without the touch of Krishna. So the hand of Krishna, the touch of Krishna is all over my life. To know that, to be able to see that, to perceive that deeper orchestration of Krishna's hand behind all the events that I'm experiencing in my life, that is also a real understanding of this section. To say that Sarvata Panipadam, that Krishna's hands and legs are everywhere, his eyes are everywhere, his cognizance is everywhere. But to also know it is also within my life, why my boss is being like, it's not to allow any abusive situations to go on. It's not to be naive or stupid. It's to understand, despite when things happen, hard things happen in our lives, something which is very hard to understand, why is this happening to me? It's so irreconcilable. Still, we can, if we have this knowledge, we can understand, okay, Krishna is my ever well-wisher. Even apparently externally, I cannot understand this current difficulty or this particular situation. Eventually I will know this is all for my good, to have that faith. So that is the purpose of understanding Krishna. So the goal of knowledge is not to know things, but to know the one who knows all things. It's not just to understand how the material world works, how everything works, but it is to know who's behind all of these things and who's that person who knows everything. And finally, for the day, and that's Krishna is saying, only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. In verse 19, he's emphasizing that devotion is important, and we are all fortunate to be directly introduced to the process of bhakti. And we have this opportunity by the mercy of Prabhupada to understand how personal God is and how much caring he is and how he is involved, even though sometimes we are not able to see his hands and sometimes feel bored, sometimes feel lost, sometimes feel very confused, struggling with our mind and senses and ego and the situations and the people around us. We cannot see the presence of Krishna, but we are fortunate by taking shelter of the processes of chanting and hearing and taking association. Gradually, it'll unfold that how Krishna is actually involved in our lives. And through all the difficulties that we go through, Krishna is watching. And Krishna is seeing our sincerity, how despite all the odds, we are choosing him. And eventually, at a particular threshold, we'll be able to see. Currently, when you see a drop, there is a glass in which water is dripping, you may think, oh, it's just a drop. But if you just collect all the drops, eventually you will see it's all like amounting to something. Similarly, with every endeavor, when we turn to Krishna and choose him, when we have a choice to choose Krishna or not to choose Krishna, and when we continue to choose Krishna, it's one drop. I feel bored. Can I take my phone and open some social media and waste my time? Or can I just turn and sing a bhajan and feel that connection? Because boring means there is no connection. Boredom means it's a clear symptom that there is a deeper connection the heart is looking for and it is missing. That's the reason behind boredom. And we are trying to connect through, say, if I open YouTube and see if I see someone sing and dance, I'm trying to connect to someone through that device. So basically, I'm looking for a personal connection there. Instead, if we just turn to something where Krishna's pastimes, where some bhajan, something that, and we see if we can turn that boredom into a spiritual experience, then that's maybe one instance. Yeah, but it's not an isolated instance, it's a drop. So with continuous turning to Krishna like that, gradually it will become, our spiritual nature will be uncovered, and we will always feel Krishna's presence despite everything going around. So it takes some effort. We have to collect drops. We cannot immediately possess a glass full of water. It's a collection of drops. So when we choose to turn to Krishna in our life, in every situation as much as possible, then those drops will eventually accumulate, and we will have a realization of Krishna's presence always through everything that's happening in our lives. And with that thought, we will stop here for today and continue from verses 20 onwards and see if we can complete this chapter in a week or two. So thank you. There is a question here. Immediate cause of reaction is destined like reaction of prarabdha. I'm exactly not sure what is the question, but if I understand, if I've tried to decipher it, immediate cause of reaction is destined like reaction of prarabdha. I'm exactly not sure what do you mean by immediate cause of reaction and is destined. Oh, okay. Who is causing it? Say, for example, I'm supposed to experience a pain that is destined, but is it also destined who will cause me that pain? If that is what you're asking, yes, Krishna uses all of our karma mutually to, yes. Okay. So is the person who is going to bring us is also destined? Could be. Even if we try to escape one person, another person will come. If we think we are very smart to avoid one person who is about to bring a reaction to our prarabdha, we think it's the problem is with this person and or the situation. We manipulate and we change the situation. Another person will come. Krishna can manifest unlimited instruments of our karma, unless and until we understand what is the problem and we change our ways. Unlimited instruments of our karma can be manifested by Krishna for our own benefit, though. So that is why they say, instead of thinking, it's very easy to say, it's very hard, but it could be helpful in this situation to think about it, to say that this is why is this happening to me? Instead, what is Krishna trying to teach me? If we go there and if we try to really understand and change, then immediately that suffering will stop gradually. Immediately we will feel a mental peace, and eventually there will be an external peace also. We'll be able to make peace with the situation. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Why is this person doing this to me? We can ask, what am I supposed to learn from this? What is the principle? Because, yeah, I was just thinking also. And this thought actually saved my day 2 days before. I was just thinking, why the hell this person is doing this to me? And then I was like, no. You always pray, I want to be a servant of the servant. Let me be a devotee and be a servant of devotees and offer me devotional service. And then when it comes, like, we're like, why is this person making me do this? And I'm like, no, that's what you pray for. And when the opportunity comes, you're just hating. So it's an opportunity for us to become more and more, what do you call, understand what is the lesson that I can learn through this situation. And we can see then Krishna's hand there. I'm not sure if I exactly answered your question. But yes, the immediate causes of reaction, the person or the people who become the cause of us experiencing the misery due to our own connection is or could be destined. And if we try to change, still Krishna can bring a new. And until we learn the lesson, newer instruments will keep coming. And if we continue to blame them and not learn, and then it only increases the problems. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you all for your attention, patience, and interest in joining every week. So see you all next week, and until then, thank you. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Thank you, Madhurendra. Thank you, Purva, Sundaran Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Shri Rupa Mataji, Hare Krishna. Gati
Thank you
Mataji,
very much.
Chaklesh, Hare Krishna. Hare Shita, Amrita Kishori, Mahidar and Divya Mataji, Hare Krishna. See you soon.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Hare Krishna.